Matthew 16:24-28. Then Jesus told his disciples, "If anyone would come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. For whoever would save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. For what will it profit a man if he gains the whole world and forfeits his soul? Or what shall a man give in return for his soul? For the Son of Man is going to come with his angels in the glory of his Father, and then he will repay each person according to what he's done. Truly I say to you, there are some standing here who will not taste death until they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom." So last week we looked at the previous passage where Jesus rebuked Peter for trying to hinder him in his path to Jerusalem, to the cross, and to the resurrection. And Jesus pointed out the problem that Peter was not setting his mind on the things of God, but on the things of man. So we looked at the importance of setting our mind on what God says, on the things of God, and not on what man says without God in the equation, in the picture. Setting the mind on God, on what he says, on the things of God. So with that in mind, Jesus carries on speaking, and he's speaking now to all of his disciples. So in verse 24, then Jesus told his disciples, "If anyone would come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me." So let's look closely at that verse. If anyone would come after me. So he's presenting an option to the people. It's not a command to come after him. It's an option to come after him. And literally in the original language, this word would means to choose to. If anyone chooses to come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. So it's a choice. It's not something that the person does because they feel obligated to. It's a choice. Now, I want to look a little more closely at this word would that means to choose to. Because if we dig even deeper into the original language, there's a very specific meaning here to this kind of choosing. And I'm just going to quote directly from the dictionary as to what this word means. To determine as an active option from subjective considerations, rather than a passive acquiescence in objective considerations. So I'm going to read that again, and then I'll explain a little bit more what that's getting at. It means to determine as an active option from subjective considerations, rather than a passive acquiescence in objective considerations. So let's look at that. To decide to do something, to choose to do something, to determine to do something as an active option from subjective considerations. That means something like this. I choose this because of what's happening and what I'm seeing around me, then I'm choosing to do this. So it's an active option. I'm choosing this. It's my choice, and I'm choosing it because of subjective considerations, the things that I'm feeling, the things I'm seeing, the things that are happening around me. Because of all that, I'm deciding to do this. That's the kind of choice that Jesus is talking about here when he says, if anyone would come after me. Now that's different to a passive acquiescence in objective considerations, meaning this. A passive decision is one that you sort of make because you have to. It's sort of happening to you. It's not active, it's passive. You're not the active agent in making the decision. You're like the passive, almost recipient of the decision. And so a passive acquiescence means, well, I'll just have to do this. I'm just going to acquiesce to it. I'm just going to go along with it. Why? Because of objective considerations, because of the facts of the matter. Because of things as they are, then I'm just going to have to do this. So do you see there's a difference in that kind of decision? One of them's very active. All this is happening, so I'm going to choose to do this. And the other one is, well, this is the way things are, so I'm just going to have to do it. So we could illustrate that by saying someone who chooses to come after Jesus is responding to what they're seeing of him, what they're hearing, what they're feeling of him and the situations around them. And they're deciding, I am going to follow Jesus. I'm choosing to. Rather than someone saying, well, he's God. He's the Son of God, so I'll just have to follow him. Right, that would be the passive acquiescence. So I really want to emphasize this because it comes down to choice. And at the end of the day, everything we do ultimately comes back to choice. At the bottom of everything, we are choosing our path. And that's a very, very important thing to remember at times. We choose the path that we take. So Jesus says, if anyone is going to choose to come after me, let him deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. So he's inviting them to choose to come after him. It's about him, not just to follow a religion or Christianity or a church, but to come after Jesus, to follow in Jesus's footsteps. And so he's saying, if someone's going to choose to follow me, to come after me, then let him deny himself. In other words, if you choose to follow me, then what you need to do then is deny yourself. And what does it mean to deny yourself? Well, you're following him. You're following his cue and not your own. And this word deny himself, one of the main meanings is to disown himself. Let him disown himself. Now, as Christians, we know we belong to Christ. We don't own our own lives in that way. So if we're going to be disciples and follow after Jesus, then we choose to follow him and we recognize, I don't belong to myself. My life is not my own. I am disowning myself. I belong to him. And I'm going to live that way. Because it's one thing to say, yeah, I belong to Jesus. It's another thing to live that way. My life is not my own. I'm disowning myself. And in the other Gospels, this is put as a daily thing. Let him deny himself and take up his cross daily. So it's kind of like a daily recognition or decision of, I don't own myself. He owns me. So if anyone would come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. Take up his cross. Now, I'm not going to say very much about that, other than, number one, at the time when Jesus said this to his original disciples, they knew what that meant. They had a very visual image of that in their minds, of people carrying their own crosses ready to be crucified by the Romans. It was a path to complete and utter death. That's what he was calling for. Let him take up his cross. So let him take the path of complete death to himself, to his own demands of life, to his own priorities, you could say, in life. Let him take up his cross and follow me. So let's put that all together. If anyone chooses to come after me, let him deny or disown himself and take up his cross, take that path of utter self-renunciation and follow me. In other words, you're not going to be following your own path anymore. You're going to be following mine. And that's really what we get from the take up his cross. That's what the cross in many ways represents in this context of discipleship. It's, I'm taking his path and not my path. Now he digs in a bit more deeply to this with the next statement. So verse 25, for whoever would save his life will lose it, and whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. So we can look at that initially just on a surface level and say, well, anyone who is focused on living their own life, their own way, is going to end up losing the very thing they were trying to get, which is the best kind of life, But anyone who, because they're following Jesus, loses out on doing life their own way, is actually going to have the best kind of life. But I want to dig more deeply into the words. Whoever would save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. Now, this word life in the Greek original language is spelt P-S-Y-C-H-E. P-S-Y-C-H-E. And you may recognize that as the English word psyche. Whoever would save his psyche will lose it, but whoever loses his psyche for my sake would find it. Now, in the Greek language, this word that we pronounce psyche, it actually means a living creature. So the idea is you, as a human being who's made of body and soul and is alive. So you as a complete human being, that's psyche. Because we consist of a body and a soul, of a visible part and an invisible part. Your body is the visible you, your soul is the invisible you, but you can't really separate one from the other and still be a whole person. So when you have the two together and you're alive, then you are psyche. You're a living creature, a whole person. Okay, so if we fold that back into the verse, whoever would save his life as a whole person will lose it. But whoever loses his life as a whole person for my sake will find it. So whoever's trying to live a full life, but excluding God and not following Jesus, is not going to be able to live as a whole person. But whoever, in following Jesus, loses out on what you think you might need to be a whole person, that person actually is whole. Now I want to again dig deeper. So this word life, as I've said, it's the word we say in English psyche, and it means a living creature, a whole human being who's alive. It's different to other words used in the Bible for life. One of them is pneuma, P-N-E-U-M-A, which can be translated breath or spirit or soul, right? Breath or spirit or soul. Similar to the Hebrew word ruach. And then this word psyche is also different to the Greek word zoe, Z-O-E, which we could say means the life of God in a person. So you can see we're dealing with very specific words here with very specific meanings, and Jesus is using them in that way with great specificity. So when he says whoever would save his life would lose it, he's speaking about psyche. Whoever's trying to be a whole human being and is focused on that is going to end up not being a whole human being. He's not talking about whoever is trying to be a complete soul, because that would be the word pneuma. He's not talking about whoever's trying to live a full life in God, because that would be zoe. He's literally just saying whoever's trying to be a human being who's alive, a proper human being, a full human being, but is leaving Jesus out, that person will not succeed in being a full human being. But the person who, in following Jesus, seems to lose aspects of what it is to be a full human being, that person is a full human being. Now, there's all kinds of illustrations I could give to try and illustrate that meaning, but I'm not going to, because I think you can probably figure that out for yourself, thinking on that point. That the person who denies themselves, disowns themselves, takes up their cross and follows Jesus, who's focused on following him, that person is really alive. Really alive. But it's an option, because he put it at the beginning, if anyone chooses to follow me, then this is what will happen. They will be really alive, truly alive. They will be truly psyche, a true psyche. Now, he says in verse 25, whoever would save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. For my sake. Whoever loses his life for my sake. Now this word lose means actually to fully destroy something. Fully destroy it. So whoever absolutely lets go of their own life in order to follow me, that person will find their life. Whoever loses their life for my sake. This word for my sake means because of me or on account of me. In following Jesus, it means I'm letting go of all my right to try to live a full life. I'm focused on him. I'm utterly invested in Jesus. I'm all in. That's what he means. Whoever loses his life for my sake, whoever goes all in with me, who's following me, who's coming after me, who's focused and centered on me, that person will save their life. That person will actually really live. Okay. And when he says they will find their life, this word find, it means to obtain. They'll gain it. It's not just handed to them. They'll gain it through being a disciple and following Jesus, which is a path that we follow, isn't it? It's not just a one-off thing. To be saved is a one-off, one-time transaction, if you like. Through faith in Jesus, a person is born again. When it's done, it's done. It's happened. Those of us here this evening, we can possibly look back and say, I know when that happened to me. And others can't point to when it happened because they just kind of grew up with that, and somewhere along the line, it became very real to them. But it's done and dusted, and it's happened. That's salvation. That's the receiving of salvation. But then following Jesus as a disciple, that's not a one-off, one-time thing. It's a path. And it's a path along which we obtain and gain our psyche, our life. We become, you could say, increasingly more human in the fullest sense of the word, in body and in soul. Okay, let's go to the next verse. For what will it profit a man if he gains the whole world and forfeits his soul? Now, what will it profit a man if he gains the whole world? Now, this word world in Greek is cosmos. So you could say, what would it profit a man if he gained the whole cosmos and forfeited his soul? If everything in the whole universe was his, but he lost his soul. But this word cosmos, again, it's just fascinating when you dig into the original language, because it means more than just the universe. It means something that is ordered in a very harmonious way. This word cosmos, an apt or harmonious, orderly arrangement of things. Now, when you think about the cosmos for a minute, the galaxies and the stars and the black holes and everything else, we know very, very little about how it all works, but we know it works. And we know it's very well organized, because if it wasn't, we wouldn't exist. And so this word cosmos, it contains the idea of something that's really well arranged and very harmonious. So let's look at that statement of Jesus in light of the meaning of that word. What would it profit a man if he gains the whole cosmos? If his life is so well organized, so well arranged, it seems to be so harmonious and flowing along so well, but he's forfeiting his soul. Does that make sense? Because actually following Jesus along the path of discipleship, our lives often look pretty unorganized. I mean, I'm not saying that it's wrong to be an organized person. I think it's great to be an organized person. Some people are more organized than others. It can be something of a personality thing or a thing of habits and training. But I mean on a deeper level. Some people try so hard to keep their life all just so well, everything in its place, rather than following Jesus. But the person that's following Jesus and going all in with him, sometimes it won't feel like everything's all in its place. Everything can feel a little bit out of place and disharmonious. It can even look like a cacophony at times. But actually, that person is truly human. That person is gaining their life. They are a complete human being. Their psyche is intact. There's more harmony going on there than we could possibly long for. What does it profit a man then if he gains the whole world, if everything's harmonious and orderly in their life, but they forfeit their soul? This word forfeit means to lose, or to damage, or to injure. So we could say it's possible for a person to be trying so hard to organize their life that they actually end up injuring their own soul, losing something of what it is to actually be human. You see that writ large in some of the most evil regimes that history has known, that they try to force everyone into this pattern where there's no individuality and there's no expression, self-expression, and there's no color, there's no vibrancy, there's nothing spontaneous. It's all just rigid. It's an attempt to destroy those souls with this horrible orderliness to everything. And the obvious examples would be the dehumanizing regimes of the concentration camps of the Nazis, or of the collectives of the Soviets and the Chinese communists, and then now with certain modern religions that do the same thing. Those are souls that are being damaged, that are being injured. It's trying to stop them being fully people. But in the middle of all of that, those people who've lived under those regimes but have been all in with Jesus, they've gained their life, and they've been the most alive human beings you can imagine, even in the middle of all that dark attempt to destroy their souls. So what would it profit a man if he gains the whole cosmos and forfeits, loses, damages, injures his soul? And guess what? This word soul here is the same word that was used for life in the previous verse. It's psyche. It's the same word. The translators in this version have chosen to translate it one way in one verse and one way in the other. But it means a living creature, a complete human being. What does it profit a man if he gains the whole cosmos, but he loses what it is to be a living, complete human being? And you can begin to feel this comparison that Jesus is making, this qualitative comparison between the whole cosmos and everything being harmonious and ordered and so forth, and the person who's simply, truly alive, and weighing up the value of each one. To give another example, and it's a modern one, but a lot of people, they want to win the lottery, and they're counting how many millions are on offer that week or month. I'm not sure how it works because I don't play it. But those people think, if only I can win that, then I can really get my life in order. I'll have so much money that I can order everything just the way it needs to be, and it'll all be harmonious, and it'll all be rich and full. And it's the opposite. It's always the opposite when the person wins, because their focus has become trying to get their life harmonious and full and rich, and God is not anywhere to be seen in the picture. But if they were to forget about winning the lottery and keep that pound for buying a bottle of water or something, and just focus on following Jesus, in going all in with him, they would know what it is to be absolutely alive, even if there's not very much in the food cupboard. Even then, what does it profit a man if he gains the whole world and forfeits his psyche, his own soul? Jesus is comparing the two. Win the lottery, have all these millions, or be alive. Gain the whole cosmos, whatever that means for that person, or be truly alive. Let's weigh it up. Let's weigh up the difference. And so then he says in the next phrase, in verse 26, or what shall a man give in return for his soul? What shall a man give in return or in exchange for his soul? In other words, he's saying, what's the value of it? How much would you have to pay, or what kind of thing could you give that would be as valuable as your soul, your psyche, being a complete human? And it seems to be that Jesus here is referring to an ancient text, the Iliad, written by Homer, book 9 of the Iliad, where the author, Homer, makes this statement: I am not worthy of a soul. I'm not worthy of a soul. So this author, Homer, he was trying to say, I don't feel like I'm worthy to be a soul, to have a soul. I don't think I'm worthy, you could say, to be human, to be all that it is to be human. I don't think that I'm worthy of that. Because he put such a price, a high price. Homer knew it's so precious to really be alive. I don't think I'm worthy of that. And Jesus is, it seems, referring to that statement when he says, what can a man give in exchange for his soul? Like, what would it take? How much is your soul worth? Now, Homer decided, I don't have enough. I'm not enough. I couldn't even pay for it because it's such a precious thing. The immense preciousness of psyche, of being a complete, alive person. And I was talking to someone this week, a Christian who is a disciple, and he was saying to me, because of a certain context where God has brought him into, he says, I'm sat around this table with 12 other people, and we're sharing our thoughts and ideas on certain important things. He said, I really don't feel worthy to be at that table. I don't really feel worthy to be listened to by these people and that they want to hear what I have to say. He said, I don't know really, I feel a little bit out of place because I don't feel worthy to be there. And I said to him, well, that's why you are there, because God put you there. And what I liked about what he was saying was there was a humility there of realizing the preciousness of being really alive. For him to be sat around that table, he loves it. He's really alive. It's really very lined up with who he is as a person. But he feels the preciousness of that. And he almost feels like it's something so precious that he shouldn't be there and it doesn't deserve it. Or another individual who I know who became a Christian a few years ago and is in another local church. And he's an older man who became a Christian much later in life. And he goes to a Bible study every week and he sits with the other believers there. And I remember him saying to me a while back, I come away from there, he said, and I count up in my mind how long each of the people in that small group have known the Lord. And it's hundreds of years put together. And he says, I just feel so privileged to be in the presence of hundreds of years of relationship with God and all the wisdom and experience that's come from that. He said, I feel so honored. Like he's sensing the worthiness, the preciousness of those people, of who they are in God. And he's been given a place at the table by the Lord. He can really value the preciousness of psyche, of a truly alive human beings in Jesus. And so truly, like Jesus said, what can a man give in a return for his soul? He's appealing to these disciples and saying, look, you're disciples, you're my students, you've been following me. But let me tell you something. If you want to come with me, if you want to go further on this path of discipleship, then you have to be all in. You're going to have to disown yourself and daily recognize that your life is not your own. And you're going to have to follow me. It's going to have to be about me and not about you. And if you follow that path, you will find your life, your psyche. You will be fully alive along that path, day by day, week by week. And you'll be becoming more and more alive as you do. And for those, he's saying, who choose not to take that path, because they've got other priorities, they're trying to gain the cosmos in one way or another. They're trying to get life to work the way that for them they think would be orderly and harmonious and good. He says, they're in danger of losing the very thing they're trying to gain, which is a full and rich life. But he's saying, but that life, that being truly human in God, it's so precious. There's nothing you could give that would match its value. You can't pay for it. You can't earn it. All you can do is follow Jesus, and it will be yours. Does that make sense? And you might wonder how that then ties in with his next statement, which is verse 27. For the Son of Man is going to come with his angels in the glory of his Father, and then he will repay each person according to what he has done. Now, there's different ways of interpreting this verse, and I'm going to give you one angle on it, okay? And the angle I'm going to give you isn't the one that says that this is speaking about the final return of Christ, because that is one very valid interpretation of this verse, that he's speaking about Jesus coming back and judging the world on the final day of judgment, which will happen. But that's not the angle I'm going to focus on tonight. I'm going to focus on something much more immediate. For the Son of Man is going to come with his angels in the glory of his Father, and then he will repay each person according to what he has done. Now, the word for means he's connecting what he's about to say with what he's just said. So he's still trying to make a point about a person gaining their life, being truly, fully alive, psyche. He's still speaking about that. He's saying now the Son of Man is coming. The Son of who? The Son of Man. Jesus referring to himself as a human being. Well, if anyone is fully alive as a human being, it's Jesus Christ. He is the human being. He is the psyche. So he's saying, okay, I'm coming. I'm the measurement by which what it is to be fully alive. Everything's measured by me. The Son of Man is coming. Now, this word coming, literally, in the Greek, means is about to come. It's a present tense verb. It's not future, he will come. It's present, and it means it's literally about to happen. The Son of Man is about to come. It's got this sense of this is happening very, very, very soon. And he's going to come, he's about to come with his angels. Now, this word angelos in Greek, most of the time in the New Testament, is translated by English translators with the word angels. But sometimes it's translated to be messengers. Okay, so it can mean both things. And that's a decision that each translator has to make. But it's very legitimate for this to mean messengers. And let's look at it that way tonight. For the Son of Man is about to come with his messengers in the glory of his Father. In the glory of his Father. Now, Jesus is the express image of the invisible God. When we look at Jesus, we see exactly what God is like. And the glory of God is the expression of who God is. So when Jesus says the Son of Man's coming in the glory of his Father, he's coming, showing and displaying and demonstrating and manifesting God, who God is, his love, his grace, his truth, his forgiveness, his compassion, his majesty. This human being, the Son of Man, is coming, showing all of the wonder of God the Father. And he's coming with his messengers. He's showing up. He's about to show up. You're about to see him, he says. You're about to see this human being full of God and displaying God in every way. And surely that's what it is to be fully human, is to be full of God and to be exuding God from every pore of one's being. Do you see that? The Son of Man's coming, and God is coming in him and with him and through him. And he's coming along with messengers who are going to be speaking and conveying his message so that others also can come to follow him and be his disciples. He's coming He's going to come. He's about to come with his messengers in the glory of his Father. And then he will repay everyone according to what he's done. Now, I'm going to put it to you this way from the angle I'm taking tonight. The simple fact of Jesus coming is the repayment. For the person who has oriented their heart towards God, or for the person who's choosing to be a disciple and come and follow Jesus. Jesus coming and being with you, that's the repayment. His presence is the repayment. And with his presence comes the glory of God. That's the repayment. And for the person who's deciding to orient their heart very much away from God, or for the person who'd rather not be a disciple, then the coming of Jesus showing up in the glory of the Father, that's a troubling thing for that person. That's an unpleasant thing for that person, because it's not what they want. That's the repayment. He shows up, and his simple fact of his presence, in some it inspires joy and wonder and love, deeper love, and in others it inspires distaste and hostility, even anger and disgust. That's the repayment. Because he's going to repay each man, it says, according to what he's done. And again, if we look at the original language of the Greek, this word, what he's done, in the Greek it's the word praxis, Praxis, what he's done, the word praxis, and it means the person's practice. He will repay each person according to their practice, i.e., the way that they live, their mode of acting, not just the particular things they've done or not done, but their mode of life. He will repay everyone according to their mode of life, which is why it makes a lot of sense that the repayment that Jesus brings with him is his presence. Because if my mode of life or your mode of life is to be following Jesus, coming after him, that if that's our mode of life, then it's a great repayment for him to be with us, the Son of Man in the glory of the Father, to be with us, and his messengers to be speaking to us and communicating his words to us. That's a great repayment. But if our mode of life is to be rejecting God, then it makes sense that him coming and his presence as the fully alive human being would cause that kind of person to suffer in themselves because they hate it. And that's how we can then go into verse 28. Truly I say to you, there are some standing here who will not taste death until they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom. So just picture it, he's speaking to all these disciples, and they're all standing there, because he says some of those who are standing here, so they're standing around listening to him. Truly, certain ones of these who are standing here are not going to taste death, because they're going to be seeing the Son of Man coming in his kingdom. Now again, you could interpret that to mean the second coming of Christ and the final judgment. But the angle I'm taking tonight is he was speaking about something much more immediate. He's saying some of you standing here, you're going to choose to come after me. You're going to choose to disown yourself and pick up your cross and follow me. You're going to be along that path of life, of full life. And so you're going to be seeing the Son of Man coming to you. You're going to be perceiving and knowing the Son of Man, the true, full, alive human being in his kingdom, where he's the king, and you're serving him, and you're being provided for by him, and you're fighting his battles with him. You're going to see this, You're going to perceive him. And so you're really going to live. You're not going to taste death. Because you're going to be alive. So he's not speaking about their final biological death. He's speaking about being alive as a human being, even before death, with the kind of eternal life that goes on after death. So we could say that in this passage, Jesus is talking to us and talking to his disciples about what it is, what it takes to be fully alive, to be a psyche, a full human being, body and soul, alive in Jesus. And that what that involves is walking with and following after the Son of Man, who is full of the glory of the Father and is fully human, and following in those footsteps. And that the path to that is to disown oneself and say, Lord, I am yours. We belong to Christ. I remember speaking about that on Sunday from Corinthians. We are Christ's. And it's very interesting to me that he's appealing here to his disciples, but he's not assuming that all of them are going to take this path. It's only going to be for those who choose to. Some are going to stop where they are, and they're going to be very happy that through faith they're going to be with God forever. But they're not going to choose to come after him and follow him and continue on that path. But for those who do, they won't taste death until they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom. And final point, we've done a lot of delving tonight into the original languages, but you get so much richness from it. When he says in this last verse, there are some standing here who will not taste death until they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom. This word see literally means to stare at. You know, have you ever seen a sight that is so captivating that you just can't help but stare at that sight until you feel like you're taking it in more and more? That's exactly what he's saying here. Some of you won't taste death until they stare at the Son of Man as he's coming in his kingdom, until they really find themselves looking at Jesus here and now through the Holy Spirit, and not only wondering at him, but experiencing him as they look at him more and more, and as they therefore are able to discern more and more his wonder and his glory. And that kind of person who's following Jesus and staring at him, that person is alive. That's psyche. That's when Jesus said, and this is my final comment, that's when Jesus said in verse 25, whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. So I'm not focused on trying to be fully alive. I'm really not. I'm focused on following Jesus. And when I find myself staring at Jesus through my experiences or the things that he shows me or the things his messengers bring to me through the Bible or whatever it might be, when I find myself staring at Jesus, then I know that I'm fully alive. And it makes me more human, more fully human. So we've seen tonight the importance of psyche, of being fully human and what it takes. And the full human being, which is the Son of Man. Does that make sense to you? Were you able to follow the sort of the thread of that through there? Okay, well, let's pray, and then if you have any questions or comments, we can talk about them. Lord God, we thank you that you've opened the way through Jesus for us to see and know and experience the glory of the Father in Jesus. Lord, that you've invited us, Lord, through your Son Jesus to follow his path, which leads to you. And in following that path, to truly see him and be able to stare at him and stare at you in him, Father. And we thank you for that, Lord, as we choose if we choose, and as we choose, to come after your Son Jesus, then Lord, help us. Help us to remain, Lord, single-minded and single-hearted on that path. And Lord, if it feels at times disharmonious and disorderly and at times even hard to understand our own path fully when we're following your Son Jesus, Lord, if it seems that way at times to us, then remind us, Lord, that it's better to gain our own soul than to win the whole cosmos of having it our way. So we thank you. And Lord, I particularly pray that you would, and this is an ongoing prayer, that you would help us to see, and Lord, in the right sense of the phrase, to stare at Jesus in our brothers and sisters too. So we thank you. In Jesus' name, amen.